ci sono aggiornamenti del 2021 che però non ha rivoluzionato granché, però il FOS è comunque sia il grande il gol del club del golf, dove si dice di guida per il trattamento del DEWS.
Right, good morning again, and thanks again everyone and for the organizer to invite me here today. So it's been now at least 5 years since TFOS DEWS 2, and the question is how that impacted on our dry eye management, from diagnosis to treatment, and how really what we learned from it. So let me share a few thoughts with you this morning. Right, so as you know, it's a huge report, a huge work from scientists, ophthalmologists across the world, come with those 12 reports. And it surely helps us to understand more about the etiology of dry eye. More important, understanding that vicious circle of a dry eye. And actually that helps us now to find out how to break that vicious circle, how to get the patient from inflammatory status to not acute, but to be less inflamed. And we learn as well that actually dry disease is a low-grade inflammatory condition for eye surface. This is different from allergic eye disease, for example. In allergic eye disease, you have spikes of inflammation which happen periodically, while dry is ongoing chronic inflammation, low-grade. And that's why management can be very different. So, and this is really important here because when it comes to the diagnosis, say, how did you find the patient have dry eye? And this is what you need to follow. You have to have a symptom and you have to have one of those 3 signs. So, it's the first time someone said that actually, if you don't have the dry eye symptoms, simply you do not have a dry eye. You should have symptoms. So, a patient walk to you, have no symptoms, you tell them, oh, you have a dry eye. Obviously, you're wrong and they won't believe you. So now coming to those signs you're going to see. So we know there's about tear break-up time measurement, whether invasive or non-invasive, and we can argue which is better. And we talk about the staining of the eye surface, that ocular surface index, we use Oxford grading. But when it comes to osmolarity, this is where actually with time, you find a lot of specialists start to lose interest in osmolarity simply because of the variation in the results, unpredictability. And you need to have a very set, well-controlled environment to have a reliable measurements. When it comes to symptoms, it's really important to understand that patients present with so many symptoms. Anything could be dry. Sometimes even a bit of itchy eyes could mean they have some blepharitis, and means they have probably a bit of dry eye disease. So carefully look at the symptoms and try to really dig more, ask the patient, prompt the patient. What I tell the patient, can you tell me what 1 or 2 symptoms are really the worst, and if I improve them, you're going to be very happy and pleased. Then they volunteer to tell you the things that really bother them about their eyes. In science, and this is always the eye, and I'm glad to see a lot of people now using it as a routine practice. So in my practice, what we give patients, we send them to home before they come to the clinic, so they answer this online. Plus, we give them a long questionnaire about general health, autoimmune diseases for them, for relatives, any medications. So basically the history already taken, done at home before they come to the clinic. So I have all the information there. And here when they are in the clinic, what I'm in my mind looking at the tear film. I want to see the volume, that tear meniscus height. And I stopped using Sherman test for a long time because I just think it's too invasive, it's unnecessary, it doesn't really add much. You have tear meniscus height and give you the volume straight away in front of your eyes. So I don't know why we need to do Sherman. Stability, as I said, yes, we use non-invasive tear break-up time, but there's no reliable way. It depends on the device, how it's captured, sensitivity, and again, can be very valuable. I still believe the usual way to measure tear break-up time is more reliable. And I do 3 times within that 1 minute. I check the tear film. Composition, this is where we said there's an argument about the osmolarity. And yes, there is a huge number of reports. If I remember the 600 plus reports on osmolarity that correlate well with dry eye disease. Unfortunately, the use in clinical practice is not really great, and it's on the reduction more than increase. So, where we move from here? That's fine. And this is a plan. I have it only in my clinic. Always I look to compare what's the grading of the tear break-up time. Now moving to the next big thing what DEWS help us with, DEWS 2. So this is a DEWS 1. What's very simple to about is acquisition serum dry eye. With DEWS 2 we have a better understanding. And what's the very, very important thing I would believe here, this is the patient come to the clinic, they have symptoms, they have sign, they have dry eye. It's easy case. The one that really the report helped us to find out was preclinical. Those patients have no symptoms, asymptomatic, they come to you for refractive surgery, for cataract operation, for any type of surgery, even blepharoplasty. And those patients, the minute you done something, then they become clinical dry eye disease. And those are the group that actually the one that come back to you, a very unhappy patient, because you trigger dry eye disease. They've been fine, neurosurgery, you are the surgeon who caused me dry eye, and that's the problem. So this is a great thing about the new classification to highlight those patients. And we know there's a big mismatch between signs and symptoms dry eye. And that's why we need more tools now. And luckily, Scott and many previous talks, people cover nicely how to use the mammography and the tear film thickness and all that. But since we introduced that, this has become part of my dry assessments. So every patient will have a thorough slit lamp assessment. We go to have the mammography, and then we use a lot of IPL. But mammography, to me, not only I can see the glands, it's for the patient. It improves compliance a great deal. And obviously, that's one of patients that come to your clinic and being asked to have warm compressed and massages forever, and then not get better. Of course, there's no glands to squeeze here. And we know that the majority of a dry eye disease is MGD, and that's why they focus more on measurement gland dysfunction. And hardly any patient, unless are Jogren aqueous deficiency dry eye, those are the groups that actually they still benefit from MGD management, but more likely they will need some aqueous deficiency management. And please remember rosacea, very, very big player in measurement gland dysfunction. Now this is a good stuff about used to report about the management. I'm very glad that they didn't say that you have to go step by step. They put the steps in terms of how aggressive the treatment, but they tell you that if you're dealing, you can jump from stage to stage. For example, if you're dealing with aggressive inflammatory disease, you don't have to start with conservative. You can go through to more invasive. You can use even plasma drops, as the previous speaker mentioned. And when we look at the evidence, what really works for MGD, you don't see so many things work. Actually, the one in red are the only ones that there's some decent evidence to support it. Mainly is the heat, massage, the tetracyclines, and more important, the cyclosporins, and so topical non-steroidal immunosuppression treatment, and IPL. So those are the ones that have a decent research to support the use and practice. And for sure, we know conservative treatment, great to tell the patient, but they're not complying with it. How many patients they come back to say, oh yeah, I've been very good using all those. We don't. Personally, I don't think I can be complying with so many of those treatments on a daily basis. That's why we need more in-office management, especially with the light therapy. And I found that light therapy, which I'm sure Dr. will tell you more about it, it helped in reducing the inflammation. And I didn't believe initially that light therapy will reduce the inflammation, but when you start to grading the inflammation myself, you start to feel actually those patients truly get much better. So the new way, the new report now that uses 3 reports, if you like, is about lifestyle. And this is just published now, this month, and there's a lot of work coming, and you'll hear more about it. So what this tells you about we have a lifestyle epidemics here. We're not going to go through this, but it's really, really, truly highlighted, and this is really important because we know this is multifactorial disease, and you have to have a multifactorial approach. You can't just do one thing and that's to get the patient better. And this is what the TFOS approach is. It's all about the lifestyle. Because we know we're causing dry eye with refractive surgery, there is a demodex blepharitis element because of the rosacea, but it's a whole thing lead to the dry eye, and you need to really look at lifestyle. And you can think of it as preventative measure. This is what we do, what we eat, our lifestyle day to day. Huge reports, 8 subcommittees on the public awareness committee, so a lot more information will come out. But tells you a lot of things that you need to do, especially focus about cosmetics and the eyeliners, the use of the same mascara, whatever, forever, give you a lot of demodex and stuff, infection, use of contact lenses, bad habits, and there's no question that contact lens can contribute to ocular surface inflammation. Eyelash extension, the glue use, the tea tree oil, showing that it's toxic to the ocular surface. And also told you about some misconception. Drink a lot of water, that's complete lie. It does not make a difference to you dry. Drink 10 liters or 1 liter. Also, it's highlight that actually the total topical drops give you a very short relief. And I'm sure some pharmaceutical will not like me talking about the drops, they don't make a difference. That's true, they must symptoms, they don't really treat the patients. And yes, the absence of dry eye symptom doesn't mean it is gone, it's still there. So, for sure, they used to give us a lot of insight about the etiology, told you about those preclinical, and those clinical cases, how to diagnose it, to get really more assurance, and highlight a lot of direction into gland treatment. Prevention now is about the lifestyle, and this is something going to come. You're going to tell your patients, the message not from us, from all the healthcare practitioners, and then to the management, and you'll hear more about IPL and other types of treatment. Thank you so much.